Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
Hello,
Damien.
everyone.
Hi, Jasmeet.
how's it going, guys?
All
Good.
good. All great.
So glad to
Awesome.
be here with you guys.
Thank you so much for having me. This is amazing.
It's our pleasure, Jasmeet, to have you and share the great things you have for the community and entrepreneurs and business owners.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys, and we've known each other what 2 years now, almost. So it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, I think more than 2 years.
Maybe
Yeah,
more. Maybe more. Time goes fast. Time flies.
Time goes really fast. Yeah, almost 2 years now. Always a pleasure.
perfect. Amazing. Amazing. So let's start with the quick introduction about Kogya. Just to let our audience know about the company, what we are doing, what we are offering. Then we'll go to the details of what we have in our agenda today with you, Jasmine and Damien. Just to give you a very brief introduction about Kugya. Kugya is a one-stop shop for entrepreneurs. That's simple. Even the name itself, we help entrepreneurs, we help idea owners and early stage idea owners to convert their ideas to an actual product or actual business as well. It's not only building MVPs or just doing some sprints or development for some applications and products, but as well the operational side of running a business by our expertise, by our partners, providing an ongoing collaboration, ongoing consultation and advisory for our clients. That makes the full value of making your idea a successful business, not just an application or a product. That's in a nutshell. People, please, if you would like to know more about Kugya, you can just copy, check the website on our company channels on social media, or just Google it, kugya.com, COGYA.com. So let's move to the important thing. Let's know, Jasmine, please, Jasmine, tell us and tell our audience who you are, what you are doing, what are your backgrounds.
Okay. Wow. So a lot of background. So I've been in hardware and robotics for about 15 plus years. I started off as a student and then went on to do self-driving and humanoids. And then I started multiple companies within that space, including India's first tech maker space. I was pretty much selling products to everybody who's making something related to robotics or IoT or hardware in India, including Amazon, Nvidia, their R&D units, universities, everybody. And then I moved to Canada, and I wanted to focus more of my energy into investing in startups rather than building them. I got
Mhm.
to a point where I was like, oh, I think I need to. I find this more exciting, and I want
Mhm.
to build that ecosystem. So that's how I kind of ended up there. And how I know you guys is you guys helped me execute incubator program, which is where you guys were the product specialists. And so that's why I was like, oh, I was like, these guys are doing perfect when you started Kogi. I was like, oh, this is perfect for them. Uh, you have the technical expertise, you have the business expertise, you have the pitching expertise. So I was so excited to see when you started Kogya, and it's been amazing to be a part of the team a little bit.
Thank you.
Interesting. I think we have a surprise at the end in our talk today. Damien will share with us more detail about it. It's a very new and unique tailored program, or we call it Launchpad. Damien will talk about it at the end. But let's start. Damien, I think you have the first thing and thought in your mind to ask just about.
Yeah,
Please
just
go ahead.
jumping on the other adjustment. We have like the same. What we appreciate is like the same global mindset, and one thing that matches all together is like contributing to this community, entrepreneurs community, and launching. So that's what gathered us. So yeah, so the this is the first series of the Koga Go Big series. We're going to that's the first one, and there's the upcoming. So today we wanted like to start with like starting what are in this new era, new our in our days, like we got shaken by the COVID, we got shaken by the investment that are slowing down. How do you like start a business? Is the good time to start a business, and how do you get funded in this new like era? So that's why Jasmine is the best guy to also guide the entrepreneurs community, to give some tips and see how like the visions of all of us in this time. So we know that it to be very optimistic. So what do you think in this era, Jasmine? What's the silver lining to take from this time right now, if you want to start a new business, instead of like, okay, I should do it, should not do it? We have the answers because we're optimistic, and I'll let you answer that.
Yeah. So definitely, it's always a good time to start a business. I feel like if you have the motivation, you will find a good time to start the business. But starting a business or starting a company startup in general is all about finding a problem and solving that problem and finding customers who are suffering from that problem. During times like these, you have more problems. That means you can have more businesses and you can create more solutions. And if you find ways to do something really amazing that is solving problems that is now a part of our lives, is now, so it's always a good decision to do that. And when you have that drive and you're seeing a lot of people facing that problem, or it's a growing issue, post the pandemic, or all of these other things that have happened, hyperinflation in a lot of countries and all these things, if you can find ways to solve even tiny little bit of issues that exist in people's lives, you will have a successful business, right? So that, I feel like, is like the perfect time to start a company, if possible for you. One of the things I would say founders have to keep in mind is focus on solving the problem. The hype is not going to sustain you. So the hype period for like AI and other things is slowed down. So that means everything is more realistic. Now you have to focus on realistic goals. Now you have to focus on realistic funding, realistic valuations. So that's good for founders also, because if it's not inflated, suddenly you don't have more stress to your life. You don't have more bigger milestones to achieve in a short period of time, because bigger valuations usually come with that kind of stress also. So that makes it a good time to be a founder who can sustain themselves and work constantly and improve and scale a business, maybe linearly a little bit, and then go exponential in a couple of years, instead of thinking, oh, I want to build something that's $1 billion business right in 6 months. So for that, I think it's a great time to start a business for sure.
You're right. One word I liked is like realistic. And we were like the past year, some like valuations, you were right, like business model. We're starting like it was like Disneyland, I would say on some times. And now it's going like, be realistic, pragmatic, more the feet on the ground. And still, if you answer a problem, a real problem that's on the market, the traction will be here. So it's just, I think the thing is to get out of the scarcity in the situation on what's going to be next. But when there was hard times, always good times come. It's just a loop. It's just an infinite loop. So that's what, yeah, to get it and to jump on what you were saying, is that to continue and get out of the scarcity. Because if you start, I think starting now is also a great moment to get prepared. Get prepared when the blast will be back. So that's also a good time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think as well, I can add as well, during this tough time, it is a very good time for much better validation, which make all of us very risk taker, yes, but much more calculating this risk. If the time is expansion time in the economy, and there might be more mistakes will happen, but now it's no time to too much mistakes that make us much more curious to succeed and avoid to be over optimistic or over planning, or just without calculating the risk or calculating the business plans we have. I think
Absolutely.
this takes, yeah, please.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you do something properly now, if you start a business that is running properly now, by the time market changes again, you will have a much better chance of much better valuations when that happens, right? Because you've made your business a lot better compared to somebody who has um, not as much resources or hasn't done the proper um, business model stuff that needs to be done, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, absolutely, I
Yeah, so
agree.
broader, you're right. Broader is like taking the competitive advantage, not especially in your startup, but more broader, like in the economics. Doing it
Yeah,
right now is taking competitive advantage on what's going
exactly.
to happen next.
Exactly. That's true. That makes takes us to the next very important point. This is the debate of when we start a new business, regardless it's during recession or expansion time. Is it correct and proper to have a very specific niche of the market, or we can think big and have everything and target much bigger base of users or customers?
I would say it's kind of both. You have to figure out what is the current market and where is that market going in 5 years, 10 years? What does that look like? Having a long term vision as a founder is extremely important.
Mhm.
If Because you might not know when you'll have an exit. You might have a plan going in, but sometimes you don't always have a plan of what that exit looks like. So is this happening in 2 years, 4 years, 8 years? You don't know. Market conditions might change during that time. For example, if you're aiming to get acquired at a certain point of time, or you're building to something that might get acquired, at that point of time, if it's not a growing problem, you will not get acquired. You will not get the amount of exit that you want, or other competition exists in that space. So you want to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing now, and seeing, okay, this is an increasing trend. What are the things that may accelerate this to a point where more people will have this problem? Or how will this company grow in like 3, 5, 10 years, right? So I
Mhm.
think that's an extremely important view for a founder to have.
Okay, interesting. That this could be like one of the mistakes, I would say, for some people when they start a new business. The product could be very attractive for a big or huge customer base, but at the beginning or starting a new business, it's very smart to select one of them. Even you
Mm,
have that plan to expand at a certain time, but the start should be focusing on one kind of persona or user type.
absolutely, yeah. You can't just think about right now, because if
Mhm.
you're thinking about only right now, um, things might change, and things always do. For example, if you're in the housing market, real estate prices go up and down, right? So you have to make sure, okay, what happens if this happens? So those kinds of scenario and strategy building is extremely important.
Mhm.
Making sure that you figure out what the world might look like
Mhm.
is very important for certain types of businesses also. For example, in immigration,
Mhm.
Canada has a lot of immigration, and other countries also have a lot of immigration things going on. If
Mhm.
you're in the immigration business, you want to know which is the next trend. What are the laws that are coming out? What are the uh, uh, acts, or what are the political conditions of the around the world that might influence your immigration business, right? Um,
Mhm.
so all of these kinds of issues are things that you should constantly be looking at, not what just one time in the beginning, but this is a constant process, I feel like.
Yeah, so it's
Mhm.
like it's always the same rule when we say like in our daily jobs and all that. When we help entrepreneurs break down your problem, go to a special niche, but that doesn't mean don't look at your whole industry and the trend. Where is it going? Because you have to start at the niche,
Yeah.
but that's where you have to be very flexible. And everybody knows the word agility is how you jump if it doesn't work. If this niche doesn't
Mm,
replies or answers to you to what you're trying to do, that's where you have to keep that vision. What's the trend, and to go quickly to the next trend because it's moving very very fast right now. Like we were like on the meta the year before,
Mhm.
and then we were on the crypto, and now it's AI, and now it's the Vision Pro. So it's going very fast. So
true.
we don't have the answer of everything after, but we have to start, yes, right, little niche, but keep the trends on what's going in the industry you want to change the world in it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
True.
Absolutely.
I
True.
think
Yeah.
that each, yeah, and it's the that's where, and to get all that, I think that's now, like there's always this eternal question that I also like, and for me is really relevant right now, is like, do entrepreneurs, what do you advise them, like to go and to start continue like bootstrapping? I remember it's like starting your business, not getting funded with few money, and trying to do with as few as you can to get your first revenue and get a sustainable business, versus, okay, I'm going to seek investors very quickly, just on slides, or maybe just with a quick MVP. What do you think, what's the best strategy, or to go with, right now also?
Bootstrapping, you can't beat it. Because if you're bootstrapped, you are
The
hungry
king of
enough.
the world.
You know exactly what you're doing, and you can experiment with all your money. There's nobody controlling you, right? There's nobody dictating your direction. So not all businesses are fundable by like investors. Sometimes loan makes a lot more sense. But if you're in a high growth market where you are seeing something that's a growing problem, and then you might be venture backable. Otherwise, angel investors and PEs exist for all different kinds of things. Loans exist. So the funding avenues might change. People think of this as like, oh, maybe angel and VC investment is like the only route for me, but not specifically for all kinds of businesses. So thinking about which route to take is important, and getting the right kind of funding is important, because what is important to you? Do you want to maintain control over your whole company? Do you, if that is the goal, then you are not venture backable. Then you might want to take a loan or take grants or take other kinds of foreign funding, which are non-equity funding. So that's one thing that founders have to keep in mind. If they can bootstrap for a certain period of time till they figure out, okay, this is the business model that works, this is the product that's working, this is the service that we're providing that's working, and then from there on raise funding, the right kind of funding, then they have a much better chance of raising that funding. You might get to a point where you've bootstrapped, but if you're raising the wrong kind of funding, it'll still be difficult. So the match has to still be there. But yeah, building a sustainable business, if you can build it,
That's right.
funding will come easy in whatever form it is that you want, right? It will come easy as long as you have great cash flow, as long as you have uh, great potential, the market is growing and you're building something growing slowly. You might be growing slowly a little bit, but it's sustainable. Money doesn't solve the problems.
No, you're right. You're right. And what I like, it's a world we use a lot with Mohamed, right? And it's sustainable because we like it. It's we use it like in our daily work, and it's because bootstrapping doesn't mean that at a time being you're going to need money. But you're right, money doesn't mean investor. It can be the trend of the loans also, because if you've built through bootstrapping a sustainable business, which mean I'll call that like our grandpa's model, like $1 for $1, and you're able to do that, a loan is perfect. That means that you know where you're going, you're sustainable. A loan, and the risk of the loan, you're lowering the risk, you're not diluted, your valuation is higher, so it's beneficial. So it's going back to models like, okay, I've made one like $10, I spend it back on marketing and reinvesting myself for sustain. So $1 for $1, and then for acquisition, and then grow like that as much as possible. But for sure, all the time, like that doesn't mean not getting funded at the moment. At the time being, you have to get, if you want to go very fast, maybe you'll have to go to other financial instruments, as you were saying, just mean like grants, loans, VC, whatever, this kind of investment.
Well, I think it depends as well on the objective. Are we building businesses to get fund, or we are getting fund to sustain our businesses? This is the crucial objective every single business owner or entrepreneur should have in mind. And this could take us to a very important note, especially after the COVID hit. We had that there is like a dictionary in our minds has changed. Like before 2020, we were thinking of raising fund, but I think now people and businesses should think of not raising fund, but to acquire to acquire customers. not to get more serious rounds of fund, but to make much more profit and much more to transform our business to be profitable, to reach to the break-even point, not just collecting money from investors and we have the money, we don't know how to use this money wisely. But this takes us to a very important point, considering all of these circumstances and changes in the world now. How do you think people should, or business owners should, have their business plans, have the details of planning a business, especially during this kind of tough mode or recession mode in the world, and especially in 2024 and beyond?
In environments like these, it just forces founders to be more creative with how they're going to use their money, right? You start to focus on only the top priorities that you have.
Mhm.
That's one thing, right? Because now you have limited funding. You might have limited resources of maybe not enough big of a team or other things. So it forces people to really, really think about, is this the right activity for my business, right? So the strategy has to improve. If I'm implementing a business model, you need to constantly be looking at it and making sure that the key partners, the key channels, everything in that is outlined is the right combination that you can do right now. So people get stuck in business models a lot, and when they create a canvas, they're like, "Oh, this is the canvas, and this is what I'll do for the rest of however long this business runs." But I am of the view that canvas needs to change a lot. Canvas cannot be something that is static. You need to look at it every week, every 2 weeks, every month, and update the things that are working and not working. You can't have it, oh, I just created the canvas and now I'm going to convert this canvas into a business plan and I'm done. Canvas, think of a canvas as a photo that you're taking on your phone. Okay. The business model canvas is that you're taking a bunch of photos.
It's like a
but
snapshot for a specific time.
it's a snapshot in time of you, right? What you look like in a particular moment of time. But you are going to frame that into a business plan and put it on a wall only when you know, oh, this is the right one. This is the right one.
And the white one is the one where you're getting money, you're getting revenue or users, whatever. But that's where it's the right one, right?
So, and you share it with people. You put it on a Christmas card or whatever, right? Only when that needs to be done. You don't create a business plan right out of the gate. You do a lot of experiments on the canvas before you get to that. So take a bunch of pictures, figure out which is the right one, and then implement that. Continue to implement that one, right? But that also changes every 6 months, every year.
Yeah, very interesting, because there was a period being like 10 years ago or whatever, when you're starting like this business model canvas, lean business model canvas. It was like you were doing it and you were thinking like or even like when you have incubators helping you to put it in, it's like, okay, you put it in and now that's the plan. And what's interesting that you said is that right now, let's say, okay, if we have to change it like every week, let's do it, guys. So that's very interesting input you gave here. Not stuck, it's a picture. And so it's one of the tip I get, like right here, like you get your money, change it, break it until
things might change. Things might change. New laws might come out that you were not expecting. For example, for the cannabis business in Canada, it like really took off when the government said, "Oh, it's legal now," right? And other businesses suddenly become legal. Crypto, people were struggling with crypto initially, and then governments started to take a look at it seriously. Some governments have promoted it. That just changes the kind of business that you're doing. So in the location that you might be at, or your circumstances might change, your partners might change. If you have a partner, their business shuts down. Now you're left with nobody, right? So you have to have backups and all of those things. So it's constant creation of figuring out, okay, what is the right model for me? And then when that starts to work,
you're right. And it's also, as you were saying, because I know that, for example, you were saying like partners or your providers that you have on your business model canvas, like the years before, like the SMEs were shaked also, and you were not. So you needed like your plan A, plan B, also on your, not to have the there's also the bargaining powers of the suppliers and all that. But what happens if it doesn't go? I've put it like one partner, one supplier. No, don't stick to it, because they were also shaken, so they can play with the price and all that. So that's very important. You're right, to have all these plans or switch it, or be, that's what we were saying before, like keep it up to all these trends and see
Absolutely.
what's happening on your market.
I
Yeah, and
think
yeah,
I think as well. I
yeah,
think as well the business plans should be taken into the form of the validation part, business canvases or whatever theoretical business plan. At the end, you're having some hypotheses in your mind, but you're not 100% sure would this work in the market or not. That's why we're always advising our clients building products and services for your clients, not for yourself. The end, you're assuming something, but the customer and market have another validation point for you to tweak or change whatever idea you have.
Yeah,
oh,
and that's
absolutely,
your
absolutely.
tagline. Don't fall in love of your idea, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the
Don't
second
fall in love
rule.
with your product also.
Rule
But
number
yeah,
two.
you might not. So hardware founders, I see this a lot because hardware founders is like the most people that I interact with. And I've being a hardware founder myself, we get stuck in the fact that, we've built this and now people will find it cool and then they'll adopt it. So that's a problem. If you haven't talked to customers properly, if you haven't done the work, um, physical products end up in the landfill. Software products you can change, keep on changing, and you can iterate and you can improve them over time, or even pivot, even if it's a big pivot, right? You can do that software, but with hardware it's hard to do.
Yeah, right.
So keeping user adoption in mind is extremely important for any business, but for specifically physical items like cosmetics, it could be robotics, it could be IoT, it could be food
Yeah,
businesses, anything physical,
yeah.
right?
Like
Yeah,
semiconductors, all these kind of like deep tech. Yeah. But
exactly.
what you mean on that is like the ideation part, or what we call in our business like ideation part, market research,
Mhm.
customer analysis. Like you mean like in the hardware industry, you have to put even more efforts on that stage, right? Because you cannot
Yeah,
break it. A software, you're right. We agree. You can break it very quick. So that's why we
right.
want entrepreneurs to go quick. When it's a software industry, a SaaS platform, an app, whatever, an MVP. It can be like have to go as fast as possible because it's easily breakable. What you're
Yeah,
saying here on the hardware, all this first part has to be very more thorough, right? More.
it has to be. Yeah. You have to not just think about the market itself. What you have to think about the problem that you're solving. Does it actually need robots? Right?
Mhm.
First off, is like forget about building the robot. The problem that you're solving, does it actually even need a robot? Is there other ways to solve it? Are there easier ways to solve it instead of building something that's cool? Um, Focus on actually solving that problem. It doesn't have to look cool as long as it works. Cool does need come into play if you're targeting maybe B2C customers, but in B2B environments, you don't really need it to look cool.
It has to
Uh,
deliver.
so yeah, so there's figuring out which environment needs what kind of combination, which kind of user will be your user and customers can be different. And a lot of
Yes.
founders don't think about that. Somebody who's paying for it might not be the person who's using it. So keeping that in mind, talking to both customer and the user is important. So yeah, so in hardware, those are extremely strong considerations.
Yeah, that leads me what I wanted to ask you, like in for you, like what's so right now, what sectors we know we talked about you're kind of global, but you have a next really big expertise in hardware. But what sectors are, I would say, recession resistant, or the time being right now is more favorable, or is more resistant? What's your trends? What the trend you see on that one?
I see a lot of automation coming in the future, not just for using AI, but AI also solved hardware issues. So people had problems with hardware not being easy to use, or it wasn't really built for people to use at home. It was built for engineers by engineers, right? So it was usually deployed in B2B environments. But now it's come to a point where change is going to come in AI and hardware sector that combined. So that's kind of how I look at it. I call it physical AI. So physical AI is all of your implementations of AI in the physical world.
And
And
there's a huge manufacturers in the US right now. There's all the big ones are building manufacturers for building chips for
exactly.
AI, right?
Yeah, so that's also happening. India is going into manufacturing. US is also going into AI chip manufacturing. Canada is a big market for automation. UK is a big market for automation in certain aspects because around the world, a lot of countries have aging populations and decreasing populations. And so post COVID, a lot of the jobs that were happening before COVID have also gone down. Things like retail and other sectors have been impacted, right? So agriculture has also been impacted, like pretty much around the world. So there are things that can be solved with automation, and so I see it as a play of hardware and AI coming together. Luckily, I have technical experience in both. So I look at founders and figure out you have the hardware, you've built something that you think is cool, but what is coming in the next 5, 10 years? Is this actually relevant? Is this going to change the way that we work? Is it going to change productivity? Is it going to change the way people live their lives? So yeah, so that's kind of what I look at as somebody who invests in these startups. Um, but beyond that, I also like different sectors, things that are important to human behavior in general. Things like wellness, things like uh, we do need to do a lot of healthcare around the world. It's a big issue. So there's quality of life for a lot of people that can be changed. So those are also some sectors that I really think we can have a big impact in.
Yeah, I think there's also, you're right, like I know there's big labs in the Silicon Valley right now on that is the food tech, but not the food tech as we hear like Uber and all that, but food tech or modifying or like having a more sustainable agriculture, this kind of stuff to build like a more sustainable world. I think that's a trend that's going to grow faster and faster, like how to make more sustainable on the things we eat. There's a lot of labs going on, research, and I think it's going to be a huge industry in the next upcoming years. So to watch out also, and yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
sustainability.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think as well in some regions like Europe, there are some trends going to mix the AI with the biotechnology, the food technology, and agriculture technology. Many countries now started to find some other solutions to localize some industries or some agriculture activities. I saw this in Germany, for instance.
Wow. Yeah. So AI is going to impact all of these sectors, but all of these sectors will also impact AI because
Mhm.
you're gathering data. It's going to improve. It's going to interact in different ways. You can maybe use data from one industry and use it in another one. And a lot of people are aiming to get to AGI, general intelligence, which is impossible if you do not have something that moves around in the world, gathering data. So robots and AI combination will probably create AGI because it will be able to move around in the world on its own and observe humans and see what their tasks look like and then learn from them. So AGI is also one thing that if you want to achieve like true AGI, it requires a lot of real world applications, not just in office environments, but out in the world. And humans can't be disregarded from that equation. So you have to figure out how does this work with the other humans in the play, not just in a standalone industrial environment.
Interesting. That takes us to a very important thing. When all the world is going forward in a way on a norm, but now after COVID, the norm has been changed. And to be a visionary entrepreneur or startup owner, business owner, how can you advise this type of business owners what are the type of things that it happens in the market or globally that might shift the user behavior or might lead to a radical change in the market or anything that we should all be ready for.
Wow, that's a big question. Things like COVID definitely changed everybody's behavior, right? Now everybody uses hand sanitizers. I don't, right? Even today, people use it. People are like now okay wearing masks. If it's an environment that requires wearing masks, they're like, okay, yeah, absolutely, I wear it. Or somebody is, it's not looked at. Oh, why is that person wearing a mask now? It seemed like, oh yeah, that's normal. That person probably has something that they don't want to transmit, so that seems normal. So things like that, big political changes can also wars, political changes of any other kind can impact businesses, but they can either sink your business or create a new opportunity, right? For the medical field, COVID was a big jump. A lot of founders with a lot of talent who were struggling to go into that field, like figuring out, oh, how do I fit in, suddenly found this big problem to solve, right? So whoever was able to go in and create automation or create some kind of ways to improve doctors' lives or improve the lives of the medical staff suddenly was found what they were looking for. They suddenly had the idea. So vision just doesn't just come. You have to figure out, oh, this is what's happening around the world. This is where I can add value as a founder. And I think this is what's going to happen if this trend continues. So it's a matter of keeping your eyes open.
Yeah, and I think that what's happening now is of course AI, and we're all talking about, but I think using AI is starting to be will have to be for me like the new normal. Not be scared of it, because it's like when innovation comes, it's like, oh, we're scared, but no, but when it's new, everyone is kind of scared, and what's going to happen. But we're going to look back like 5 years after, in 5 years, it's going to be everywhere, and even in our daily task, if you're resistant to like using, or think of the work of a copywriter. A copywriter, they're all, when it started and came, like it all scared all the copywriters. But what I
Right.
was saying with the people I was working on, the marketing teams, the copywriters, don't be scared. Use it, leverage it, go faster, do more. That's innovation. These tools will help us, and that's the new normal, to
Exactly.
go faster, do more, maybe be more on the analytic part, like the vision, to talk about it, like, and put the foundation, and maybe think more, and all the things that were just like writing a 500 word article, which is now you can do it in a snap.
True.
It's like it's putting your input and your vision, and maybe like reading more, putting more intellectual stuffs around it, and that will help. And so leverage these tools, that this new that's the question of the Mohamed, like what's the new normal. New normal will be all that, like same thing, using all these tools and all that. That will be also the new normal, and not being scared of it. That's my opinion, but
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like think of it this way. Think of the accounting world, right? We used
also.
to have people doing accounting on paper and registers. We had ledgers, we had actual ledgers and registers, and it was somebody's job to write that down. And then somebody would check it, and then somebody would say, okay, that's a mistake. Go back and do this. Then came computers, right? So came computers, we had Excel, then came Tally, and then came all of these other softwares that kind of just improved the flow. So the same thing that happened to going from paper to computers is the kind of thing that we're going to see with AI. So now less people are doing the same job. You need less people to do the same job. People who are keeping up with what's the latest technology will be able to use it better. Efficiency increases. So definitely there is going to be a similar sort of change. And also, like I said, we have aging populations in a lot of part of the world. That means we have the jobs, we have tasks that need to be done to run the world, but we don't have enough people to fill it. New workforce is not coming. So you need to automate a lot of that task, right? So you need to make sure that the boring stuff that the AI can do, let it do it. Don't worry about it,
Right.
right?
And I
So
think it's about like leveraging the human being by learning knowledge and all this, and we have to leverage ourselves on learning
Yeah.
more and new stuff. And yeah,
exactly, exactly. Don't
Think-
focus on the strategy. Focus on creativity. Focus on other things that you can do
True.
that the machine can't do. Right?
Yeah.
enjoy it.
That's true.
Enjoy stuff.
Honestly, the AI, and even I see the AI is in the human, the main asset they have, every one of us, is the time, not the money, by the way. Because if you have the time, you can make money. But if the AI come to save you some money, that's great. You have some savings in time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're saving time, money, effort. You're saving the number of people. It's not boring anymore. You can do more stuff. People are worried about education being changed with ChatGPT. Like, okay,
True.
so now you don't give them written exams. The things they memorize and then they regurgitate in the exam. Those exams are gone. Now you find out what they actually know. Do oral
True.
exams, do other kinds of exams. So there's all this change that will happen, will create something, a new way of lifestyle for a lot of the countries, I feel like.
Yeah. And on a new, I wanted your input, like from the even from the beginning. One of the question I wanted to ask you before is also, since you're we know you're an investor, Jasmeet, you're working with a was VC, you're investing yourself, like how this landscape has changed. And that's the first one. And the one I jump on what you were saying before on the sustainable business. I'll let you answer the both. Like, what's your reaction right now, our days versus before, when you receive a pitch deck with this business plan and you know that there was this break-even point, all the break-even point were 3 years after, and you were like, okay, but you knew, you as an investor, no, it's the break-even point is not here. In the best case scenario, it's in 5 years. And
Right.
now, but it was fine. Like a few years ago, it was fine. Okay, let's go. Let's still put the money. We'll see how it goes. Pre-seed, seed, and it will go. Now it's getting tougher. That's the conversation we had before. How do you react now when you see still like, okay, break-even point in 3 years? Do you say, are you more tough to invest? Like, okay, now that we know the reality, or how do you react now, our days to that?
So, yeah, so in times like these, like I said, valuations become more realistic, which means you are judged a little bit more harshly. Are you actually, are these numbers even possible or not? Luckily, in the hardware space, that's been happening for a long time. Nobody touches, most investors don't touch hardware anyways. So it just makes sense to, those founders are very financially, they know what they're doing. They know where their cost is going to come to, and then they figure out the right plan for it. And they can survive decades and decades. Other founders are now having to learn that skill, essentially. So which is fun to see. But I tell founders, yeah, be more realistic. Don't so sometimes when this happens is people say, oh, this company was funded at this valuation and this much money. I'm starting in a similar space. That means I can get that funding and that valuation. But that's not the case. You don't know what that company's moat was. You don't know what their USP is. You don't know what their traction might be. You don't know how many big customers they have, things that you don't know about that business, right? So you need to make sure that your valuations are realistic. You can't just raise funding based off of, oh, this is a comparable business. Maybe they started 6 months before you did, right? So they have a lot more going for you compared to you. They have a lot more customers. So focus on making sure that you get to a point where you have those things figured out. You have your business figured out. You have your strategy. You have your pretty much everything around the product, right? Your marketing, your sales, your team culture, all of those things need to be figured out before you can raise funding. In today's environment, that's more relevant because investors are looking at a lot of that thing. They are a little bit more risk averse. They are more thinking about, okay, why do I have to invest in your company when I can do something in traditional markets and get similar returns? So that mindset changes a little bit. But risk averse does not mean, so if they are risk averse, you can de-risk the investment for them before you get to that point, before you approach them. So that's a good way of looking at it. You tell them, look, you think I'm risky because I haven't tested this thing out, but now that I have tested this out, that just de-risks for the investor. For example, if you have a product and just an MVP, and then you go to an investor, the investor might say, not at this stage, I can't invest at this stage, which means they might be interested, but they want to see how they can de-risk it. And when you go to them, oh, I have this MVP, but I know I also have customers and I have this much feedback and I'm making improvements on it, that tells the investor, okay, this person actually is got much further along in the process. So it's a way of de-risking it. So there's several strategies that the founders can use, and the more they do, the better it is for them when they get to that deal. And so it's more de-risked. But yeah, in hardware, that's always been the case. But in other sectors, that's also
Right.
in times like this, we start to see this in other sectors too.
That's where we're saying we'll go back at the end, but that's what we thrived for, and that's what we created. That we'll come back to it. I'm just jumping before, but it's exactly what you're saying. That what we created that launchpad, and we're saying to the entrepreneurs we work with is like before having the MVP was fine. Okay, you could like convince, but you said it like you could have convinced investors, but now they ask more. It's your MVP and your traction.
Mm-hmm.
So the MVP is the real minimum, I would say, not viable product, but minimum, I would say, investment asset you must have to go and raise. And that has changed, because before it was just you could raise on pitch deck, that was working, and now it's MVP, and you just said it, and we totally align with that. It's your MVP and the traction with it. Either it's, of course, revenue is the best, but is your business model sustainable and also feasible, understandable? If it's just users, but your plan is to convert these users in money after that, that's fine also. But you have to show you have users or money or traction or first sales.
Yeah. So the main thing is just to confirm that your solution is solving a problem. You're not having a solution and looking at a problem.
True.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, that's true. And in terms of traction also, you need to make sure that you are sustainable. Like I said, money doesn't solve problem. It's going to accelerate everything that's wrong in your company when you raise funding. So if your culture is not right and you are not hiring proper people, then the people that you put in charge for hiring other people will also hire wrong people, right? True. So if your business model is not working, if you raise more funding, you'll continue to make the same mistake. Let's say your marketing is bad, you'll do even more worse marketing with more money. So those things need to be figured out first. Money is going to come in a little bit later in markets like these and times like these. It'll start to pick up. I think by the end of the year, it'll start to pick up a little bit, where we will see a little bit more, a little less risk averse nature from investors. But this is just in general, you need to have this. Doesn't matter when you're raising, if it's an economic downturn or not. You need to make sure that those things are taken care of before you raise funding.
Oh, interesting. I think this takes us to a very important skill and challenge at the same time, which is building resilience. How do you think in this uncertainty we have all around? I'll give you a little example. Some people, when they have their business plans and business models where they live in some cities that might have some natural disasters or some troubles, no one was imagining just in 2019 that there will something come and hit the whole world. Now it's very normal that when we do any business plan and any strategy, that there is something much bigger than all of us that affect the whole world. So how the resilience could be affecting the business, or how the startup owners and entrepreneurs have this kind of skill and this mindset to manage their business during the uncertainty mode we have?
It definitely comes down to the founder, right? In early stages, especially, if the founder is an optimistic person, has a proper goal in mind, is keeping that in mind, they will do everything that they can to make that business succeed. So it, and you kind of have to be a little bit crazy optimistic to get to that point. You have to be like, I will do this no matter what. I don't care if I raise funding or not. I don't care if I think this is a big enough problem. I know I can solve it. I am undeniably the right person to solve this. And that kind of attitude and confidence level is definitely required, which is why early stage investors also look at the founder, because that's important. If this person is not going to survive, or is going to back down and not try at the first sign of trouble, he's just going to leave, then that is a bad investment for the investor, right? So I also look at that. I have a background in a sort of a nerdy inclination to psychology, which is how I sort of became a dating coach. But that's another story.
I was saying you're global. All your skills.
Yeah, so that's a different
You're
story.
adding something I didn't knew.
that led me into that field, but I use that as a way to figure out, is the founder the right kind of founder? Will he do anything to make his business successful? Because founders come from all different backgrounds. They don't have all the knowledge in the first moment when they start the business. They might only know the product. They might be strong in marketing. They might be certain things that are outside of their field of expertise. But that willingness to learn and optimism is extremely important.
Yeah,
right?
and I think also the optimism you're saying, like it's related to how strong they believe in their vision, in their product, and what they want to build.
Exactly. So you have to constantly make sure that, hey, I will do this. We will survive this. We will figure something out, right? When we're doing this. So that's extremely important. So that's how I look
I
at it.
think I think optimistic, they're realistic optimistic as well,
Yeah,
because if we have this resilience in the mode of falling in love in our ideas, that will make us fall in
absolutely.
the trap of failure. But we have to think about the business itself, because we might shuffle and pivot the whole product and service, but at the end, the entrepreneur or business owner should have the plan or the vision for the business itself, not the service or the product.
Absolutely. Optimism in what the business will become, realistic
Yeah,
in what the business is right now. Let's just put it that way.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
I think that was kind of the end word because I don't want to be the timekeeper, guys, but
We're
I think
doing
we thought we were at home and in the couch just chatting
Yeah.
together, but we had to go.
this is
I
awesome.
think we can check if there are some questions. If anyone would like to ask us in the comments, please, guys, feel free to ask. We can take your questions. Um, okay, till the people have their comments, or if anyone has question, we can. If you have any kind of success story in mind, Jasmine, of this kind of typical uncertainty in history or in business, just to
I
let the people
Yeah, I think
have it.
the most well known one is probably Airbnb from like 2008. Remember when
Mm.
that we had a bunch of inflation issues happening at that point in time, so Airbnb came up with a solution, and they survived and they thrived. The So if you can survive during a downturn, a lot of founders who were struggling before the downturn, who couldn't sustain their businesses, those businesses shut down during COVID, right? So it kind of became an opportunity for new people to come up with new ideas that they can then
Mhm.
sustain. If you can sustain it and you can last, if you're revenue generating from the day one, you don't have to worry about it. Your customers
Mhm.
will come. If you're solving the real problem, your customers will come. So that is a good way of looking at it, making sure that you have those users and you have the revenue and you have uh, increasing revenue coming in. that will get you through the tough times. And then when you
Mhm.
are clear of the tough times, then you can start to accelerate a little bit more.
And
Interesting.
you're right.
Yeah.
I like that you took Airbnb, because I was talking with it last week with someone, and I was like, what's the magic right now happening with Airbnb also is like, now they created this is, of course, it's a success story, they're striving at that, but you as a like individual, and you put a house or a condominium or a rental on Airbnb,
Mm.
you generate almost revenue from the day to another, because they
Exactly.
become so big. So so you're doing a business on what they innovated in, and then you're able to, you as individual using their platform, to generate revenue from the day to another. So it's a huge loop that has been put it in place with
Exactly.
sustainability now on it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely. And
So we have a question on the comments. Someone is asking about starting a traditional business in the food, white label food products.
Mhm.
Any suggestion on how to address or apply solving problem concept of value you discussing in the beginning?
uh food businesses, there's a lot of competition for sure, right?
Mhm.
You have to have a differentiator of some kind. You have to figure out why are you in that business in the first place? Because when you figure that out, all of your marketing will line up. Everything that you tell anybody, whether it's in a pitch deck, whether it's in a marketing campaign, whether it's on social media, everything will become clear if you know why you're in that traditional business. If you're disrupting that traditional business, that's even better. Like then you can do other kinds of things in it. But if you're still following the kind of business model that exists, you need to know exactly why you are in it.
Yeah, and how I think
Because
in
that's
all the business, you always can find where you can be different,
Mm.
where can be your company, even if it's a sustainable business, how you will come. Is it through you're going to be maybe different with your marketing, as you were saying, or with just one little thing? But I think you have to figure out, even like white here, the question was about white label, where like it's what Seth Godin called it, the purple cow.
Mm.
Find your purple cow in it, like in that way. So I think that's a thing to start, like, to in a nutshell. We cannot go
Yeah,
deeper.
absolutely. You have to figure out why you're in it. If you are not doing that and you're in sort of a traditional business, then there is no differentiator, right?
Mhm.
You are the differentiator in that business.
Yeah, right.
So you being motivated enough is going to determine everything else. Your team, the way you do things, the marketing, the strategy, everything is going to be different based off of why you're in it.
Interesting. We have another question. How do we navigate loss of trust from investors, especially from angel investors?
Loss of trust from investors. Oh wow. That is hard to gain back. If they've lost trust in you, that is hard to gain back because angel investors are probably the first investors that you get,
Yeah,
right?
and they're a lot more emotional than VC. They're just not on.
Exactly. Angel investors are investing in you because they believe in you.
Yeah.
So if
Mm.
you've lost their trust, you have to go hard and prove to them that A, you're able to listen to their advice. B, you're able to actually do what you said you were going to do. C, that you are willing to bring them into the process. If that's what they're looking to do, if they want to be involved, bring them into the process. Don't be somebody who's not willing to learn. Don't be somebody who's not willing to listen to everybody. Um, those are some things, but yeah, your specific particular thing could be different depending on your business. But those are some steps that I would take immediately. Keep them updated of what you're doing. Send out a newsletter every day, every week. Like, hey, this is what you said that this is what we should be doing. We've now made that change and we're now doing this. And this is working, this is not working. We're trying everything out. So keeping them happy is equivalent to keeping your customers happy. If you're not keeping your customers happy, that's also a problem.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
But I think one of the values also in this relationship is uh, transparency, and be genuine. Be just, yeah, don't hide stuff. Like, okay, even if stuff's messed up, transparency, be genuine. It happened, especially in the business. Is that we don't all have the magic ball to say.
Exactly.
So there's no worries about that. Everybody's understanding. If you're genuine, if you're I think everything will be aligned after. Yeah.
Absolutely. Hiding doesn't work.
No.
Lying doesn't work. You have to be honest about it. Even if there is failure, it's fine.
Authenticity.
Right?
Yeah.
Tell them not just that you had a failure. Tell them what are you doing to actively fix it. Right? That shows like you're not just giving up. You might actually be willing to give them money in some other return, in some other way. You might be pivoting. You might be doing something else to fix that issue. So make sure that you keep them in the loop.
And that's what
Yeah, I think as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Damien. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying we did a conference a few months ago with Mohamed, and we were talking about leadership. And one of the pillars we were doing during our presentation is trust.
Trust.
And trust all together. We are here around the table because I trust Mohamed. We trust all together. So that's why we're here. And trust with your investor, angel investor, trust is in, and it shows leadership trust also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
That's very true. So I think it's time to our last announcement about the launchpad.
Yeah, sure.
So excited for this.
Can share what,
Just to sum it up, and all our talk, also what we've done at Koga here, we launched. All what we said is we launched a cohort of a batch of a launchpad where we execute with the founder. So it's for early stage entrepreneurs, very early stage entrepreneur that has a digital product or ID. Then we pass it over if it's hardware for Jasmeet, but very early stage. So we want them to execute and go through their MVP. We work on that launchpad on 4 pillars: the business pillars that we talked, the marketing pillar, the technology pillar, where we execute with and for the entrepreneurs all different assets, including building the MVP, doing the pitch decks, doing the financials. All we talk because we want them. And also the last pillar is advisory with one of our partners, Jasmine, this year is one of our advisors. And we want to take these entrepreneurs to their first revenue. So that's what the talk we had, like generating sustainable revenue. That's one our goal during this this launchpad, and getting their first pre-seed funding. So that's our goal. So to have this, it's not like before, just not with slides. So we come here with tangible services. So we're launching the first cohort, the first batch, the first sprint batch. So if you want to apply, we just you can apply and have questions. You can just scan this code or click scan this code. You cannot click and scan this code. There's an application, and you just pitch our ID, and we invest in the startups until $70,000 for the entrepreneurs. And then we make them connect to our investor community, like Jasmeet, VC community, and take them to the next level. So basically, we want you entrepreneurs to go from 0 to 1 as fast as possible in that launchpad. So if you're you can scan and put your application, and we're more than welcome to hear your idea. Yeah.
This is so exciting for me. I love this. I've seen you guys do this over and over again, and putting it into a structure is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you, Jasmeet. Thank you, Damien, for this great discussion. And hopefully we replied for all the questions we have. And we already, I see the comments on our channels. People are getting insights and getting a lot of valuable things from the advice you shared, Jasmeet. And let's have our next plans. We might have more discussions very soon as well. If our lovely audience and our channels have more further questions, feel free to share with us, and for sure we can prepare more and more talks for you.
Absolutely. And I'm reachable everywhere also. If somebody has a specific question about hardware, reach out anytime. I love talking to hardware people also.
And thank you so much, guys. I think we had fun. I hope the audience felt it. So that was a great first one. There's going to be upcomings Go Big series soon, so we keep the audience posted. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. 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 Bye.